inside every storm there is peace. There is my friend Charles. I see him on there. Anyway, I wanted to talk about spiritual storms in relation to, physical storms. And we are living, I think, that we are living in a spiritual storm right now in our entire world. Everything, I think, is in turmoil. It's in a spiritual storm. It's like, just notice the hurricanes, the horrendous fires, the flooding. I mean, go on and on and on. And then top that with COVID. It is I call it spiritual warfare. I don't know, but anyway, I think it's everywhere, and I think that we can create it, spiritual warfare inside ourselves. And so, the people who live on those coastal regions of any country that live in hurricane-prone districts and states, they stay prepared for it. I hear Sally talking about she works on a hurricane preparedness committee. I think she's chairman of it, because they know sometime in the hurricane season they are out to get a hurricane. So they don't wait until they get the weather report. They are prepared before it comes. And that's what I think that sometimes we don't do in our own storms, our emotional storms. Do we prepare enough? Are we ready for those emotional storms, or do we give in? For addicts, what we do, if we don't prepare ourselves mentally and emotionally for those emotional storms, our brain will tell us how to get relief as addicts. When we're in the midst of turmoil, our brain will say, well, you've got something in the kitchen, go eat or go drink or go whatever your addiction is. Go look at porn on the internet, go do this, go do that. That is what our addiction tells us. So we have, those of us that are addicts and deal with addiction every day, we have to prepare. And, the 12 steps, that's what our guide is. But I think sometimes in the moment, there's some things that we could do in the moment to prepare ourselves for the emotional storms. Any of you have emotional storms? Shake your head if you have emotional storms. And, when we're in the midst of it, it's like, oh my God, what do I need to do now, and that's the best thing, because that is a prayer. Oh my God, that is a prayer. With Misty's permission, I was going to share something. She, on Sunday, wasn't it Sunday, found a large mass in one of her breasts. Hard, large mass. Well, I have my doctor is a good friend of ours, and I had a private number, and she's also Misty's number, so I called her on Sunday, and it frightened her, I believe, because she got a technician in on Monday to go ahead to do a mammogram and a ultrasound, because it was serious. It could have been serious. And so, rather than going into hysterics, there's a part of me that did, oh my gosh, and fast forward, well, what if this, what if that, what if it is malignant, and how will we deal with the children, and how will we, find people to sit with her. I'll sit with her while she's doing chemo, and then her mother and I were sitting while she was getting the x-ray, and Rose and I figured out a kind of a schedule, anyway. We were prepared. We prepared for the storm that didn't come. We also sat out there. They wouldn't even let us sit in the lobby on account of COVID, They would let one person. Well, I wanted Rose to sit there because she's the mother. And she said, no, you need to sit there because she wants you near her. Anyway, so we both just sat outside in the foyer and waited. And saw half of Abilene come through there, but anyway, nevertheless, we sat out there, and what we did is we held hands. We didn't just awfulize, we didn't stay in the future, but we did talk about the possibility, But we held hands and we prayed and we prayed and we prayed. And when Misty came out, the technician had told her already that she had a cyst and it was not malignant. So we were, praising God, and I'm grateful that there was a part of me that wanted to just scream and cry, and it doesn't do any good. It's about staying calm in the midst and seeing what we can do. And the thing that we could do is we had her chemo appointments all figured out, who could watch the boys and who could go say, anyway. But what we did do was get still and we prayed, and anyway. So just wanted to tell you, talk about we need to stay prepared for those emotional storms, because guess what? They're going to come. They're going to hit us, and sometimes they hit us when we are least expecting them. So we need to stay, be prepared for the storms. And it's those, we just can't get around having life storms. None of us are immune to them. So one of the things that I call them spirituality storms. I mean, it's like a spiritual storm at times. And the fact is, sometimes as spiritual as we think we are, for moments we can just sort of forget that and take it back to ourselves and think that we have got to figure out the answer. We can't, but God can and will if we will seek Him. So I want to just kind of give you just kind of go down a list of some things that we could do. Is one of the things is our attitude toward the emotional storm. Look what your attitude is, and define your level of success in the past of working through storms. When we have an emotional storm, we think, we've never been there before. What are we going to do? And so define how you successfully worked through something before. And then what will happen as we get in the center or get in the midst of the storm, not in the center of it, but when you get in the midst of the storm, what you're going to find, or what all of us will find, it will reveal to us our weaknesses. It will reveal to us what we need to work on. Every time we will see our strong points and our weaknesses. And by ourselves, I don't believe we can do much. But we do, have to prepare ourselves. And so what happens then is when we're in that emotional storm, it can reveal to us how unprepared we are. And how I was taught in the 12-step program to prepare is we only, and y'all know this, you're big book thumpers, you're 12-steppers, but the only answer is to any problem is to stay in fit spiritual condition, and that's based, we only get a daily reprieve. A daily reprieve contingent on staying in fit spiritual condition. So it's kind of like you open a savings account and you put in, every paycheck or whatever, you put in money, you put in money, you put in money, you put in money, and then if maybe you're saving for something, maybe a disaster happens, something happens, but you've put that money in a savings. That's like our program. That is like, spirituality. That is what we do every day in a 12-step program, is we add to that savings account spiritually. by inviting God into our life every morning, every single solitary morning. And then, where it talks about in step 11, on page 86, 87, any time of the day or night, we can pause and seek God's will. We can pause in the midst of whatever's going on and say, God, help me. We don't have to just do it, make conscious contact every morning, and then thank Him at night. All through the day, we can pause and ask Him, invite Him into whatever storm that we're going through. And also, don't forget to thank Him. Sometimes we'll, have a crisis, and then we, just pray and pray and pray, and then the crisis is over, and it's like, okay, I'll check you later, God. It's like we don't, are sometimes thankful enough and give Him the credit. So we have to see the flaws in our plan that might lead to disaster in the first place. The flaw in a plan for a 12-step person, a flaw is stop doing those 5 things. Those 5 things to stay in recovery every day. Those 5 things. Get up of a morning and turn your will in your life over the care of God and ask for another day of recovery. And then we get up off our knees, and I was taught to get up off my knees, off my ass, and go to work. Go to work and, read some program literature, work the steps with the sponsor, go to meetings, get with like kind, and that's hard in today's time. I'll tell you, I have not been to a face-to-face meeting since the pandemic started. I keep calling and thinking that I will, and then my kids, because of us really wanting to protect our clients and our staff, we lay real low. And so meetings, face-to-face meetings are hard to get to. So anyway, that's the 4th thing. Meetings, get with like kind. And then the 5th thing is give away what you have. Teach it to someone else. If you want to know how to stay in recovery, sponsor people. And what will happen is when you sponsor people, we usually teach what we need to learn. As you sponsor people, and it may not even be someone you're sponsoring, just someone that that calls you about a problem. You're going to, when in talking with them, you're going to find out that you know a whole lot more about the solution than you thought. So anyway, be prepared, and if there is a flaw in your, disaster plan, beef it up. So another thing is, and I do this when I do it in nearly every intensive, or when I'm working over at the center with clients and we're doing shame and anger reduction work or whatever, when we're doing some deep work, at the end of it, this is an exercise that I would encourage every one of you to do when you get into that, oh my God, what's going to happen? When that, that fear of the storm come, things are happening. One thing is to take a deep breath. Like if you're going to take in a deep breath, take in and count to 4 or 5, whatever the number. I'm going to say count to 4, and then bend over at your waist and bend down as far as you can. And when you go down, exhale, and I know this is kind of different from what you've learned about exercise and all, but when you go down, exhale. If you've taken in 4 breaths, exhale 5. I count to 5 and blow it all out. Come back up, breathe, go back down and blow it out. And then I add another thing to that when I'm doing this with clients. While we're down there, I have them to shake off all of the negativity, anything that's in the room. I have them to shake it off, and then I have them to make a noise. I say, make a sound like a siren. And when we come up, we go, ah, Anyway, and by the end of about 3 times, that whole room is vibrating. And so that helps gets the energy going and the negativity out of the system. So storms, sometimes emotional storms, can be a time of creativity. Look what the pandemic has given us. I mean, we have gotten very creative in ways to, there have people that have made their own sanitizer. When sanitizer was so short, who would have ever thought to make sanitizer? The only reason that they did is because there was a shortage. Now, I don't know of anyone that made toilet paper. I don't know. When there's a shortage of toilet paper, I don't know. And they don't even have Sears catalogs anymore. When I grew up, and I'm telling my age, it was after World War II, and you could not get anything. We could not get a commode, and that's what I wanted on my 4th birthday, was a commode, so we could have an inside toilet. And my mother got me, and a neighbor friend smoked a pipe, and I loved to smell that pipe smoke. So when I was 4, I wanted a commode and a pipe to smoke because I like the smell. And so she got me a little toy commode and a corn cob pipe. Well, I threw both of them. I didn't want either one of them. I wanted a real pipe with tobacco, and I wanted a real commode. I was pretty sassy and feisty even back then. And so we had an outdoor toilet. Everyone did. It wasn't just us. Not everyone, but people in our area did. And, thank God there were, because there was a shortage of paper during there was a shortage of everything during World War II. And so Sears Roebuck catalog was out there, so you can read it and use it for other things. So anyway, all right, I don't know why I got off of that. I got into rabbit trailing right there. There goes my ADD. Okay, so do the breathing. That will manage, even if you don't bend over, breathe, take some breaths, stop, take a deep breath in, and then exhale it out. And, like I said, count whatever the denomination is. Breathe in 4, breathe out 5, and just get it all out. Okay, and this is a biggie, is to be aware, increase your awareness of your emotions, of your feelings. We are human beings. We are feelers. We are feeling people. And so it's about noticing your emotions and your feelings, and how when you're in the midst of an emotional storm, those feelings are magnified. And it is about being willing to identify the feelings instead of just staying in a whirlwind. It is about stopping in the midst of that going on in your head. Do y'all know what I'm talking about when I do that? Do y'all have that stuff going on in your head? It's about stopping in the midst of it and really identifying what the feeling is, what that emotion is. Because sometimes we just act crazy, or we feel crazy on the inside, and if we're not careful, we'll act crazy on the outside. Have you ever acted crazy on the outside? Y'all probably haven't. Early, y'all lie about other things too. But before recovery, I was a crazy maniac. I would, get all upset. It was usually about either my mother drinking or my husband drinking. But anyway, nevertheless, I would get in an emotional storm and I would not know what to do about it. So what I do is rage and scream and holler and, usually at my kids, abuse my children through my mouth. And so, in recovery, push that pause button and really notice the feelings. What is this feeling that I'm feeling? And then it's just increase your awareness. Instead of trying to escape the feeling, like I said earlier, through addiction, or trying to, even if you're not a work addict, when you have feelings going, a lot of times people want to get out and work it off. But I'll tell you, our feelings tell us a lot about ourselves. And if we'll notice what the feeling is, identify the feeling. And one of the ways is to validate your feelings. Validate what you are feeling. See, feelings, y'all hear this all the time when you come here. Feelings are not bad or good. They just are. They are feelings. I don't know, because I'm not an animal, and I do love animals, but I'm not like some of y'all that are real animal lovers. I'm sure animals have feelings, and I'm sure they have emotions. I don't know, but I do know God gave feelings to human beings. They're part of who we are. So it's about being able to be still long enough to identify what the feeling is, own the feeling. And I think people, especially early in recovery, I don't know why they get the idea that they're not going to ever have a bad day. Guess what? You are, because that's what life's all about. And storms are going to come your way, emotional storms. And by the grace of God, and it is by the grace of God, and action on your part, you won't reach out for a substance. You'll sit and you'll feel the feelings. And one of the things is pen to paper, or is two of the best tools that you can have. Pick up a pen and write out the feelings. It doesn't matter what you're writing, just write it out and see if you can identify the feeling. Identify what is the feeling. Maybe you are scared to death. Maybe you're, write it out. Fear, anger, whatever it is, write it out. And then, and then validate it. Validate it's okay to have it. And then with people in 12-step programs, we have a built-in system and the 12-step program that I don't know of any other system that has it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there are. But what we have the gift of, if we will avail ourselves to it, is sponsors. Now they don't say sponsor in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. They didn't have that term. But Ebby took the message to Bill W. And what Bill from that point on referred to Ebby is his beloved. His beloved. That's pretty strong language, isn't it? His beloved. And we are in a program that there are beloved people, and we become beloved people if we're willing to help someone else. And so we have that built-in tool, we have access to it, and it's called sponsorship. When you have those feelings to come up, guess what? You don't have to experience that by yourself. You're not alone in this deal. And what I always tell people, and I was told this and early on, is to have at least 3 people, and they don't all have to be sponsors, but one of them includes your sponsor, but have 3 safe people in the program that you trust and that you believe in, that they will tell you the truth. And when you're in the midst of a storm, call all 3 of them. Now, I had 3, and I'd always like to call the first one first, because the first one would say, well, just bless your heart. And it would usually be about I was mad at my husband for getting drunk, And she'd kind of help me get mad at him with me, She would join my team and we could be mad at it. But anyway, she would just bless my heart and just love me and just, be so kind to me, And then but she would say, go to the big book, or if it was an Al-Anon, she'd give me a page to read out of the Al-Anon book, or, call a newcomer in Al-Anon, or go to Al-Anon, or whatever, and then I would call the next one. And then the next one would be, all business, and she would, give me some, directions. And then this third one, I did not want to call her. I did not, but I'd always called her, and she cussed like a sailor. She cussed like a sailor, and she would, just kind of start out by cussing me out. Well, you know the answers. And so she'd give me absolutely some direct action to take after she kind of cussed me out a little bit. But she would always hang up loving me. All three of them would, But so I got basically the same answer from all three of them, just a little different presentation. But I always called the first one first because she was just so loving and, took my side to everything. Don't we love people that will take our sides even when we're wrong? So, speak it out loud. When you have a feeling coming up, don't keep it to yourself because it will grow. Speak it out loud, write it out, speak it out loud. And, I keep going back to, that will increase your awareness of how to identify feelings, and then it will validate your reality when you call someone else and speak it out loud. And sponsors will mirror back to you. They'll mirror back what they heard you say. So, all right. Another thing then is, and this is not easy. I'm going to say it, but it's not easy. And I've been told this, and I practice this. I practice this on a daily basis, so I know it works. Is when you get into that negative place that, those feelings come up. And this is good for people with anxiety to practice. And it is about using the brain that God gave us. And that is about switching that thought pattern. And the more you do it, the more your brain will receive it. If you're thinking negative about something or someone, twist it, turn it to a positive thought about that person. Or if you're angry, anything that any of those thoughts, think the opposite. Do y'all think that's possible? Do y'all use that technique, thinking the opposite? Now, sometimes we're all addicts are so self-centered, sometimes we just love the agony. We just love the feelings of being in the middle of a storm that we can't figure out the answer to, so we just run around like, I talked last week about like Henny Penny, the sky's falling, and it was thundering. So it is about being still. My favorite verse in the Bible is be still and know that He is God. It is not you. He is God. And then break it down. Be still and know. Just be still and have a knowing that things are going to work out. You're going to get through it. And then be still. And then the last one is be, to just be in the moment and know that we all are, we're precious children of God. And those of you who have children, do you love to watch your kids just be in absolute turmoil and running around crazy? Of course you don't. Sometimes we have to let them do that until they ask for our help. But and God's a gentleman. He won't come in and take away our feelings without our invitation. But if we invite Him into the center of the feelings in that emotional storm, He will absolutely be there. So that feeling that opposite works. And so when when you are present, when you get grounded in the moment of whatever's happening, what happens is you get rooted in love. When you stop and you get really centered, what you're going to find in the center of the turmoil is love. And, you're going to become peaceful. You're going to find some calmness. And let me turn this page here to see my notes. But you will become peaceful and calm. In the eye of a hurricane, we talked about that, last week. They say it's about a 40-mile radius. that in the eye of a horrendous hurricane is if there's peace and calm. I didn't know that. I mean, I've kind of heard it, but And so in the midst of every emotional storm that we have, that we find ourselves in the center of it can be calmness, peace, and love is the answer. Love is the answer. To love ourselves enough to not want to stay in that type of turmoil and chaos. So when you're surrounded, and we are in today's time, our children, I was thinking about my grandchildren this morning and great-grands. I don't know, I have no idea what the great-grandchildren, what kind of world they'll be living in, but I know that my grandchildren are living in an entirely different world than I grew up in. When I look back, I grew up in 40s, 50s, 60s, life was pretty simple. There was one or two TV shows, Leave It to Beaver and Father Knows Best. That was about, So, and that's, by the way, is how I modeled my life, was Father Knows Best, because I wanted that perfect two-story house with, roughly curtains on the windows, an American flag out front, and red geraniums out, a pot of red geraniums. It just looked like, a perfect home. And I created that. I created that in my adult life. That my house looked a whole lot, not exactly, but a two-story house, and I got it all cozy looking. But inside that house, during the, before recovery, the store was inside that house, and I created most of it. I was married to, an alcoholic, and this is the sweetest thing in the world, until he wasn't, like most of us. But he did not create chaos. He was one of those silent drunks. He just wanted to drink and kind of pass out, and, he wasn't angry. And I would try to provoke that. I wanted him to get angry, so because that's what I was raised in. I was raised in a storm, an emotional, screaming, raging household. And I thought if he loved me enough, he'd fight with me. I had that so mixed up. So anyway, while chaos, swirls around you, you can take charge of your innermost feelings. And it's about stopping, like I said, stopping in the midst of it and inviting God into that moment. This is the moment of power. Do y'all know right now is the moment? Right now is the moment of power. And when we get in the midst of any kind of turmoil, we're thinking about the future. We're thinking about the next hour or the next day or we're not thinking about staying really grounded and present in this moment. And that's really all we have on any given day is this moment. Now is the moment of power. And so if you, and just know we can change our inner reality anytime we want to. Do y'all believe you're that powerful? That you can change your own inner reality anytime you choose to. Do you believe that? Hello? Shake your head if you believe that. So it sounds to me like when we don't choose to live in inner harmony, what are we choosing? To live in chaos. It's a choice. It's a choice, really. Now bad things happen to good people. Bad things happen to good people. And so when, right at first, when there is some kind of a crisis, absolutely, we're all going to have those moments of, oh my God, what's going to happen? But it's important to get past those moments, and know that we're all in charge of our inner reality. I hate to tell you, you can't blame it on your mother anymore or your dad. You are in charge. If you want to live in chaos, go for it. If you want to live in inner peace, take charge of your life. And so when you do this and you can breathe again and you can feel the love flowing through you and in you, It's okay to love yourself. Do y'all know that? It is okay to love yourself. I always thought that was the most selfish thing in the world. It's the most unselfish thing in the world is to love yourself. That's what we learn in the program right at first. If you don't love yourself, how can you ever get clean and sober? How can you get abstinent from your eating disorder? It starts with learning to love yourself. And that you are a precious child of God, and God loved you first, and all that. So through taking over and being in charge of your own inner reality, like I said, you can breathe again. You can breathe through it, and you can find love, and suddenly you will find yourself in the center of the peace and the calm. And suddenly then you're truly living in the present and living in love, living in the moment. So remember this, and I'll say this all the time, but I just think it's fitting. With every breakdown, and we're going to have breakdowns. A crisis is a breakdown. We had a crisis Monday. It wasn't my crisis, but my friend, Misty, that I love and adore. That was a breakdown. We didn't know what it was, the results of the test was going to be, but there was a breakthrough. And I believe, regardless of what her diagnosis would have been, I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt there would have been a breakthrough. So with every breakdown, remember, with every breakdown, you're going to learn something from it. There's going to be a breakthrough. And if you're not paying attention to the breakdowns and what the lesson is for you inside that breakdown, I hate to tell you, but you're going to get to repeat that over and over and over until you learn the lesson. It's like, okay, God, I've got it. I've got it. Whether you're a severe anorexic and not feeding yourself appropriate, or bulimic, feeding yourself and throwing it up, or a compulsive overeater, or an alcoholic, sex addict, you go down the list. As long as you are taking charge of your disease, and I'm talking about taking charge, that when you are practicing your disease, there's not going to be a breakthrough. You're going to break down more and more and more and more. But if you're willing to stop in the midst of whatever the turmoil is, whether it's your active addiction or a hurricane that's on the way, if you can stop in the midst of it and be still and know that He is God, you will have a breakthrough at the end of whatever the crisis is. So that's what I have, and there's a lot of people, there's people on here that have had lots of breakdowns, and you have worked through them, through the 12 steps and through taking action. Action is the magic word. If you want recovery, you take action. If you don't, just keep not taking action, and you'll wind up, if you have an addiction, you have 3 choices. That's recovery, die inside an institution, because after a while, some anorexics, when they get so bad and they refuse help, some young anorexics have had to be put in nursing homes just to be tube fed, because a hospital won't keep them. So be institutionalized, death, or recovery. 3 choices: institutionalized, death, or recovery. I choose recovery today. What about y'all? Do y'all choose recovery? Okay, y'all share. This is your time.